Welcome to the third installation of our Research and Scholarship MedBit series, produced by the Office of Faculty Development. In this video, we will cover everything you need to know for successful research and break down the TCU Institutional Review Board. Let's jump into a discussion about what the Institutional Review Board is. The Institutional Review Board, or IRB, is a committee that reviews and makes determination on research involving human subject participants. Any human subject research requires IRB approval prior to the initiation of the research project. The Office of Research and Compliance, or ORC, at TCU handles and coordinates research compliance, which is conducted under the purview of the federal regulations. TCU requires that all researchers complete the Responsible Conduct of Research training. It is a 2-hour training session where details of the TCU Research Department are presented. Please visit research.tcu.edu/events for a listing of upcoming RCR training dates. In addition, TCU School of Medicine faculty will be required to complete the Human Subject CITI training. If this was done at another institution, you will be required to attach a completion certificate. Now we will discuss how to submit your IRB application. IRB applications are submitted via Cayuse Human Ethics. You must first request access to Cayuse. Once access is granted, you are able to create, modify, and submit an IRB proposal. Visit research.tcu.edu and navigate to the IRB submission process page to request or verify your access to Cayuse. Once you have logged into the Cayuse system, you will find a button on the top right that says New Study. Click this button and you will begin creating your IRB application. To begin, you will be prompted to add a title for your study. As you navigate through the application, be prepared to answer the following questions. Is your study funded? This represents any internal, TCU, or external funding provided for your study. In the event that your study is funded, you will be required to select one of the following in the application: self or internally funded, from departmental funds, university funds, faculty startup funds, or other funding sources; federally funded, externally funded, or funded at a non-TCU site. Is your study student-initiated? This means the study is both initiated and designed by a student co-investigator. If it is, several of the subsequent questions will be skipped, and instead, you will be asked if you are conducting human subject research under an IRB-approved protocol at or by an external institution. Will this submission be a multi-site study? Multi-site refers to a study that will be conducted at more than one location where the same protocol is being used to obtain IRB approval at each site. If your study is multi-site, you will be expected to select where the IRB of record will be located. For example, TCU, a non-TCU site, or each site will submit to their individual IRBs. Will the submission be a cooperative or collaborative study? This refers to a study where more than one location is conducting the study, but each site is conducting distinct parts of the study. If you select yes, a new tab will form on the left of the screen named Cooperative Research below the Study Procedures tab. What type of activity is the research for? In this section, you will have 3 options to select from. The first will be Research Study. This will be the primary IRB submission type we will continue to discuss in the remainder of this video. The second option will be Chart Review, where you will be prompted to recognize if it is a retrospective versus prospective chart review. If your IRB submission is for a chart review, please note that an abbreviated set of questions will follow. The last option will be Activities that do not constitute human research, and this includes quality improvement, program evaluation, secondary data analysis, academic projects, and case reports. If this option is selected, the only remaining submission category is to identify your research personnel. Now we will discuss remaining pieces of information required for your research study IRB submission. You will first need to list out your research study team, starting with the principal investigator, or PI. This will be the primary contact for all IRB-related communications. Your principal investigator will serve as the leader for this research project, and you will need to list their name, organization, address, phone number, and email address. Remember, as TCU School of Medicine faculty, you must have completed the Human Subjects CITI training previously mentioned and will be required to show proof of completion in this section. If this training was completed at another institution, you will be required to attach the completion certificate. Next is your primary contact. All principal investigators and co-investigators will automatically receive study communications. Therefore, if there is anyone additional whom you would like to receive study communications, you can input their information here, including their name, organization, address, phone number, and email address. Next, you will add any co-investigators that are listed on the project. Again, you will be required to list out the co-investigator name, organization, address, phone number, and email address. If students are participating in your study, you will list them as co-investigators. Lastly, you will find a section for other personnel. This includes statisticians and others who will be involved in the implementation of the research study. Additionally, if you have students participating in your study who are not co-investigators, they can be listed here. Next, we will discuss the study information components of the IRB submission. The study purpose describes the objectives, aims, or hypotheses of the study, including what you expect to learn or to demonstrate. The study outcomes section describes the anticipated outcomes of the study. The study background section will describe the theory or data supporting the study's objectives and include key references. References can be attached as a separate document. For the study site location, you will just need to specify where your study is occurring. This can include on the TCU campus, including the medical school campus. If your study is occurring at an external site, TCU requires a letter of support for non-TCU site research study. A link is provided for the guidelines, and the letter of support should be attached to the IRB application. Other options include an international site or online for surveys or interviews that can occur via Zoom, Qualtrics, mTurk, or other software programs. Now we will dive into subject information required for your IRB submission. You will need to identify the desired population or populations for your study. The first option we will discuss is for healthy adults. Healthy adults include patients, students age 18 years and older, employees, parents, caregivers, and business owners or entrepreneurs. Vulnerable populations include children, pregnant women, prisoners, and cognitively impaired adult participants. These will require additional measures to ensure these populations are not harmed in your research project. In the event that the study subjects include prisoners, you will be expected to provide a ward number, name of funding agency, and granting institution's program officer. In the event that cognitively impaired adults are study subjects, you will be asked if legally authorized representatives would be used to obtain consent, and if these individuals would also be a part of the study population. You will additionally be required to state the number of participants in your study. This number will often be based on power analysis. Inclusion criteria will define specific conditions or characteristics that make it appropriate to enroll a person in this study. You will need to provide justification for these. Exclusion criteria will define conditions that make it inappropriate for a person to be enrolled. You will also need to provide justification for these conditions. The recruitment portion of the IRB submission provides a complete description of all recruitment procedures. You're required to upload recruitment emails, flyers, or advertisements. Even if you have not yet started advertising, this literature must be complete at the time of IRB application for review. If you need help, there are templates available on the TCU research website. You will also be required to disclose if non-research or study team members will be distributing materials on or off campus. Next, you must specify the study procedures and provide a chronological description of the procedures, tests, and interventions that will be implemented during the course of the study. In this section, you will be allowed to attach flow diagrams, a schedule of events, or study schemes for complex projects. You must also specify if this is a clinical trial. In the Research Methods section, choose the design that best describes your research project, such as interviews, focus groups, questionnaires, physical activities, placebo groups, etc. You will be asked to upload all instruments, measures, scales, interview guides, and questionnaires and surveys used. Also include if the study will involve deception or incomplete disclosure. Detail how participants will be debriefed at the end of the study or participation, and state whether the procedures were conducted in person, virtually, or in a hybrid format. You will also need to describe your cooperative research. This includes who will be conducting the data analysis and what institution they are with. You will also need to specify if any identifiers will be a part of the data collected and sent for analysis. Finally, you will have to disclose how the data will be shared with external collaborators and describe what will happen to the data once analysis is complete. Under the Cost and Compensation section, disclose if participants will incur any out-of-pocket costs and if they will be compensated. If participants will be compensated, you will be expected to explain if they will receive full or partial compensation, as well as report on how compensation will work if the subject withdraws from the study prior to completion. Next, list out your potential risks, mechanisms to reduce risks, and benefits. Your IRB submission will also require details on informed consent and HIPAA. If any members of the study team collect informed consent as part of the study, you will need to describe the consenting procedures and documents in detail. These documents will need to be attached to the submission along with procedures for withdrawing from the study. Will you obtain consent from any non-English participants? If so, you will be expected to upload copies of the translated consent documents. If you are collecting any PHI, you will be expected to select which of the 18 possible identifiers you intend to collect. You will be asked if you would need to request a HIPAA waiver or alteration for research use of PHI. If so, you will be asked to select if this will be a waiver of authorization, partial waiver of authorization, or alteration of authorization. In the Privacy and Confidentiality section, you will need to describe how the participant's privacy will be maintained during intervention or data collection. This includes identifying if you will have a certificate of confidentiality, describing how data will be analyzed, providing a plan to review data to ensure integrity during collection, and disclosing if data will be banked for future use, either by the research team or other researchers. Once your IRB is submitted, the study will be authorized and finally placed in pre-review status. The TCU IRB meets once per month as a full committee to review studies. Not all studies require full IRB approval. Certain low-risk studies can be approved on a rolling basis without full committee review. Once the study has been approved, the PI, co-PI, and primary contact will receive communication. If revisions are requested, this information will also be sent to the PI, co-PI, and primary contact for the study. Please be aware of the time period allotted for revisions to avoid having to resubmit the entire study. Thank you for watching this video. If you have questions regarding compliance of your research, please contact the TCU Office of Research Compliance. For additional guidance, questions, or concerns, please contact the Office of Faculty Development at mdfacultydev@tcu.edu.